I get a phone call today from a guy who I've featured sporadically, maybe like 3 times in total in the past here on After Prison Show. A really good guy. A guy by the name of Richard. Richard's an older gentleman, 59 years old. He suffered from a lifelong battle with addiction and incarceration. Matter of fact, I think the 3 different times that I did video work with him in the past, maybe even including this here, has all come right after he's gotten released from incarceration. Richard's been to prison in the past, but as of late, during the time that I've known him, probably over the course of a year and a half, maybe 2 years, it's all been little jail stints. After the last time that Richard and I got together, maybe we did some video work, I can't honestly remember. I would lose contact with Richard and yet again, he would end up getting locked up for a probation violation. And it would be just this morning that I get a phone call from this guy out of the blue. Turns out it's 6 months later. Richard just did 6 months in jail. Can't even imagine the stories that he has to share. He shared a really interesting story with us, I believe the last time that I saw him, in relation to how the older guys are being treated in the jail by the young dudes. So I'm sure that he has quite a few stories he could share this time. But that's not what I wanted to talk with him about today. I wanted to talk with him about exactly what I've titled this video. Imagine getting out of jail and ending up in a sex offender halfway house. How does that even happen? Now, let me tell you, Richard is not a sex offender. He has no sexually related charges, and I wouldn't deal with him if he did, or anybody else for that matter. But yet, Richard has found himself living in a halfway house that is almost entirely them type of people. What a absolute insane situation. Could you imagine getting released from jail and that's where you go? Possibly because you have no other options, no other choices. How do you not know that the place you're going is that? Well, in Richard's case, he didn't have anywhere else to go. Richard is an older guy, like I said, but he lived with his mother, an elderly woman. But it was this last time, Richard getting locked up, when his mother needed constant care, that she would end up falling, and Richard's brother from California came and picked up their mother, and took her to California. So there went Richard's place to live. Of course, there's a lot of other halfway houses. Richard applied to some of those. Some of those he couldn't afford. Some of those you got to have some upfront money to get in there, and a decent amount of it. Ironically, this halfway house that Richard is at is pretty cheap to live at, about $100 a week. I wonder what kind of money they get from the state to operate a place like this. I went and I tried to look this place up because I did want to just find out any information that I could in relation to this place. I couldn't find anything. I couldn't even find a freaking carbon footprint for this place. And I think back to the time when I was locked up many years ago, obviously at this point, I remember hearing this particular name of this facility. And I knew it to be associated with that. So when I get this phone call out of the blue from Richard today, and he tells me that he just got out of jail after 6 months, and I ask him where he's at, is he still staying with his mom? And he tells me that he's not, and he's staying at this particular halfway house, and he names it. That's the first thought that goes through my mind is, what the hell is Richard doing there? You don't oftentimes hear about a regular guy ending up at a sex offender halfway house after jail or prison. But as I would learn from talking with Richard, as you're getting ready to see, it's actually something that happens. Maybe more than we think. Maybe a guy doesn't have any other options. Can you imagine being down so bad? I mean, this is either the worst luck in the world, or you were just at the epitome of freaking rock bottom. When you are not that type of a person and you end up at a freaking facility like that. Locked up, housed around undoubtedly monsters. What good could come from sharing this with the world, putting this out there? I just hope that in some kind of a way, anybody wants to help Richard get out of this situation. Maybe it brings a new energy to Richard's story, which I'll link down below with the previous videos that we've done. Richard is such a humble dude, such a good guy. Like so many others, I imagine, who get wrapped up and consumed with drug addiction and turned into somebody that they're not. Essentially a monster in their own regard, just not the sexual offender type. When is enough ever enough? Hopefully in Richard's case, this is it. I mean, it doesn't get no worse than this, really. Maybe this in some way can help Richard get up out of this situation faster. Richard seems to be doing okay, aside from this pretty massive situation. And maybe some kind of a way this helps somebody else. Maybe it scares the bejesus out of them, like, oh my God, I better sober up and sober up quick before I end up in jail with no other options, all bridges burned. And my only option, my last resort, is to B&B out of a jail or prison to a home plan like this. This ain't no home. This is a freaking house of horrors. But again, I reiterate, Richard, he ain't no sex offender. He's just housed, unfortunately, at this point, around them. What follows is my update with this guy. Hope you find some interest in this. And maybe this is an opportunity for us to be able to follow Richard on this journey. Hopefully his last. After prison. Except in this case, it was jail. Show of his own. Let me know what you think. Hey, here's a great idea. Let's film a video outside in a God bless it hurricane. It's pretty freaking windy out here. Not sure if you guys can hear how windy it is. Rain is blowing sideways on us. Richard, I think that the outside conditions aren't going to be suitable for us.
I agree.
Sadly, we're going to have to go film inside of my truck. Richard concurs. Yeah, not every day is going to be good for filming outside. That's for sure. All right, let me see how this looks. Yeah, Richard, I'm sorry that this is not the most ideal setting for us right here, but this is what we got. We got to film up inside the truck. You all right with that?
Yes, sir.
Man, hey, haven't seen you in a while, Richard. What's been going on?
Well, had a little probation violation. March 24th, I had transferred my probation from Virginia Beach to Chesapeake, and I failed to report in Chesapeake. They put out a warrant for an absconding charge from probation, came to my apartment at on March 24th and arrested me, put me in jail. Unfortunately, I had some issues with my mom and my living arrangements, and wound up losing my apartment, which put me in a tough situation. 6 months later, after my release from jail, of course, when I lost my apartment, I didn't have any place to go, and I was in the position of finding what they call halfway house, different facilities, which there's not too many in Chesapeake, and I was going to be on probation in Chesapeake, which I am. My job that I got back is in Chesapeake, so I ended up going to a facility. We'll talk about that a little bit sometime, but I'm doing great, feel good, clean and sober. I think I really benefited from a little 6 months in jail. Kind of gave me a chance to focus on the mistakes I had been making, but you know, it's been a roller coaster ride. You know, my life since the last time I had spoke to Joe, a lot of things have happened, and it's teaching me just to take one day at a time and I can only do so much in one day, and that I have to learn one thing is I have to learn a lot of acceptance of every situation I'm in today. For instance, the weather, I have to accept it. I do landscaping. Of course, we can't work in the rain. I'm doing some other side stuff. I have to accept the fact that I don't have everything I want. Right now, I don't have a vehicle. Looking for one right now. My mom's in California. I miss her. I was living with my mom when I was arrested, and she's living with my brother now in California. She fell a week after I went to jail, and she just needed to have 24-hour care, which I couldn't give her any longer because I was living with her, and of course then I was in jail. So and then in the process of that, her being moved to California with my brother, we lost the apartment, which essentially made me homeless, other than being incarcerated in jail. And then of course when I got out October 6th, I had some options to go to rescue mission, which I did not want to do because it would have been a bad situation due to my past with my addiction. And the reentry people at the jail had a couple options of some facilities, and one didn't work out, another one did, but it's not the best place that I want to be right now, but it's where I'm at, and I have to accept it and deal with it.
I got to jump in. Appreciate you sharing, basically in a nutshell, what's gone on since the last time that you and I talked. You know, you're a guy who's been locked up many different times in his life. You've struggled with addiction throughout your life. You've been candid enough to share that with us here. Richard, I was sharing with you on the way to film this that, man, you just got some really, I say like bad luck. Like, God bless it. The situation that you're in right now is probably the craziest situation that I've ever heard for a guy coming out trying to get your life back together. Let me share a few things and get this ball rolling a little bit. You said you had some options coming home, but you couldn't go back to the apartment that you lived in for so long with your mother because she went to California to live with your brother. There were some other halfway house options for you. You said that they didn't work out. Well, one of the reasons you shared that was because you couldn't afford the money you needed to get into one of those halfway houses.
Right.
So you end up in a halfway house where you currently are right now that is a sex offender halfway house.
That is correct.
And you, for the record, Richard does not have those type of charges. I've looked up Richard. You can look up Richard. Richard is adamant in the fact his charges are drugs, theft charges. Those are what Richard has.
My criminal history consists of grand larcenies, forgery, things of that nature. I'm not proud of it, but just basically stealing to get money for drugs. My entire criminal history is due to my addiction. So I was unaware of this facility and what it was when I went there. I didn't find out till after the fact. And Joe is on board with me to make it known. I'm adamant about letting it be known that I do not have any of those charges. I have to accept where I'm at right now. It is what it is, but
somebody watching this would be like, oh man, I'd beat up all of those guys. And I'm sure you probably feel like you would want to,
yep.
You want to put hands on these dudes. You know, that's going to put you back in jail, whatever. Richard, when you were getting released from jail, did you need a home plan?
Yes, I did have to have a home plan. Here was the situation. When they give you state time, they give you what they call 30 adjusted days. And that's really 30 days off of your sentence. But what they do is they kind of hold that there, DOC, and if you do not have an address to go to after your release, what they do is they keep you longer
than your
release date.
Those 30 adjusted days.
They can keep you up to 30 days, and then it's up to the probation department to find you a place to go. So of course, anybody that's done time, they don't want to do a day longer than they have to. So when this facility gave me an acceptance letter, I filled out an application through the reentry people at the jail. When they sent me an acceptance letter, I had no idea what it was or where it was or anything. I didn't even I knew the address, but I didn't have any idea where it was. So, of course, me being ready to get out after 6 months of madness in jail, I jumped on it. And I'm like, yes, I got a place to live. I got a place to go. And, you know, the rules and the description of the facility did not describe it as being a sex offender house. It just described it as being a facility with some rules, you know, what they did for you to help you, things of that nature. So, of course...
Were there any rules that kind of stuck out to you, like you can't go on social media or anything?
No, there was nothing like that. I mean, we can actually pull up the rule. Well, no, there's nothing like that would even hint that it was that kind of facility. Right. Other than there was a couple of things that kind of was odd, which one of them, it's a 6-month program, so to speak. You're supposed to stay there for 6 months, and they don't want you doing certain things within the first 4 months. You can't have a vehicle. They don't want you getting in a relationship. They have certain stipulations, but they don't
get in a relationship.
Yeah, they don't want you to do that. But coming to find out, since I've been there, there's been other guys that's lived there that don't have those kinds of charges, and they are very, very flexible with those guys. The ones that they really are adamant about the rules and the stipulations are, of course, the sex offenders, because they have to register, they have to follow certain guidelines. And I'll give you a great example. This Friday is Halloween. They're putting the house on lockdown. They're putting a chain across the driveway, and those guys, they're not allowed to come out. They're not allowed to leave after, I think, 5 o'clock or something. And I do believe that somebody said in the past that they took them out of there and put them in jail for the night on Halloween due to the fact of, you know, kids trick-or-treating, that kind of things. And it's very, very difficult for me to accept that and to have to say, okay.
Would that apply to you?
It doesn't apply to me, but I'm in a position to where I'm just fresh out of jail. I really don't have a whole lot going on. Of course, I have a boss that's a good friend and in my job, but it's going to be on a Friday night, and after work, my goal is to just go back home like I always do, or go back to the facility, take a shower, get something to eat, and watch a little, you know, maybe watch a little Joe on YouTube, and then get up Saturday and go to work, and then that'll be gone. It's just going to be for one night, but that's the kind of facility is, and that's the kind of situation that I have to be associated with. We are required to go to church on Sunday, which I love church. I'm a Christian. I'm a born-again, saved Christian, and we're mandatory to go to church on Sunday, and they take us in a van, and they are aware of the van and the association with this certain facility. And when we get out of the van, of course, people from the church, and it's very difficult. So
hold on. Let's talk about that a little bit. You're required to go to church. You get out of the van. Are these guys interacting with the patrons of the church, or they got to like sit in a certain section?
Well, yes, they interact with the church, and the church is very aware. And of course, people that are Christians or claim to be Christians aren't supposed to be judgmental. They're supposed to be forgiving. That's a very difficult crime and a charge to forgive. And of course, if I had kids and I was in their shoes, then I'm going to be very protective, and I have to be judgmental, so to speak, of that. But we are required, that's one of the requirements that we do have to follow, is that we are required to go to this church. Now, the one thing about that is, for me and 2 other guys that are not sex offenders that live there, is that if we found a different church to go to, we are allowed to go to a different church, but that involves transportation, which I don't have at this time. So I'm kind of in a rock and a hard place with going to church on the van and then getting out of the van with these people. And here's the crazy part. The house manager said that one of the stipulations, or I guess what he wanted, was for all of us to sit in the back left corner of the church. And I immediately said, no, I'm not doing that. And I didn't really tell him. I just said, this is church. I'm not going there for any other reason than to, practice my religion. So I'm going to sit wherever I want to sit. And I'm definitely not going to sit in a group with a bunch of sex offenders to have everybody, associate me with that. I'm doing my best not to be judgmental, but it's very difficult. But yeah, that's the crazy. Here's another scenario. When you go to fill out an application or do something at a medical department or whatever, and you give them your address to let them know where you live, and they enter it in a computer, my fear is, does it come up, that address come up as a sex offender facility? So the girl might not even, or whoever's doing my information, they might see it but not say anything. But as well as I do, and let's be honest with it, they're automatically going to put me in, oh, he's at that facility, he must be that.
Yeah, when you told me the name of the facility, the halfway house where you were staying at, that was the first thought that came to my mind was, I don't know anything about this place, but wait a minute, isn't that a sex offender halfway house? And sure as shit, that's what it is. That's where you're staying at. You're not a sex offender. There's a couple of other guys there who are not sex offenders. This house, this thing is out in the middle of nowhere, like out in the country type of stuff.
Way out. Yes.
I think about, what about kids in the neighborhood? Like, it's got to be so far away from everybody.
Very, very good point, Joe. There are maybe 2 or 3 houses that are within maybe an eighth of a mile, and we are not allowed, they're not allowed to walk down the little country road to the left of the house because of the people that live in that area. I don't really know why. I haven't got the details. We were just told that if you want to take a walk down the road, you got to go to the right because it goes where there's no houses. To the left is off limits, and that's part of the stuff. I don't want to go out and walk around because there's, it's in the country, there's bears and whatnot, and but some of these guys like to wander around. Hey,
how many guys are in this house?
Right now there are 15, and out of the 15, there's 4 of us there that are not, do not have, sexually related crimes. Me and 3 other guys. And
do you have a roommate?
Well, they have different rooms. They have one room that's got 4 in it. They've got a couple rooms that's got 3, and then they have some other rooms that aren't really different. They have like curtains, like a hospital style curtain that divides it. So you've got 2 guys living in a big room, but a curtain just divides it. There's like 15 beds in there. It's a very sizable house. It's a decent house. They get a lot of donations for certain things. So overall, it's a roof over my head. It's a place to sleep, shower, and a place where I can get on my feet and go to work. Aside from the people that live there and the association, I have to deal with that. I have to deal with that right now, and it's not that I'm okay with it. It's just where I'm at in my life today, and my focus and my goal is to step by step get a vehicle. I've got a job, get a vehicle. I'm working on that, and then move out.
You've got a little bit of money saved.
I've got a little bit of money saved up. I'm doing very well. I've been clean now for almost a year.
This has got to be like the most stay sober motivation that a guy could have.
Oh, it's adamant.
I mean, you think about the worst things that could happen to you from addiction. Richard, addiction led you down such a dark path that you actually had to come home from jail and live around a bunch of monsters.
Yes, I did. And I put myself in that position, so I really can't complain about it. Ultimately, it's not them, it's not the house, it's Richard's decisions that he made in his past to use drugs, commit crime, and ultimately suffer the consequences of my actions by going to jail and then being placed in a situation where I'm homeless and I'm gonna take any place I can get to live, and it's my fault. So I have to deal with it. I can't go in there and, judge people and be disrespectful. Let me see who that is, Joe. I apologize.
probably your boss. Like,
Yep,
where the hell you
yep,
at?
Yep, exactly. Yep. We'll find out here. Scam likely.
Right. There go them calls for you too.
Right.
Richard, you never answered the question though. Do you have a roommate?
Yes, I've got a roommate, but he's ex-military. He's not a sex offender.
There you go.
His charges do not have anything to do with sexual stuff. He's in the same boat I am. He had absolutely no idea. He got out of prison and didn't have any place to go, and got to this facility and was like, wow, I didn't know that. And so we kind of hang out together a little bit, and you know, he's in the process of looking for a job also. I have found a job because I had a previous job doing landscaping, and I've been blessed. Everything's fallen into place, you know, slowly but surely, not as fast as I'd like it to, but you know, my financial situation is not the greatest because of my job is landscaping, and of course, you see outside, today's a prime example of I'm not working today. It hinders me, you know, financially. So I'm just grateful to have a job. I'm grateful to have a place to go and stay, and I'm not using today. That's number one. I'm not using because, as the 12-step program says, when I use, my life becomes unmanageable, and I'm in a situation to where I'm facing some time in prison. I have an elderly mother, elderly father, and if I were to go back, violate probation, dirty urine, another charge, I would go back to jail, prison, and I would more than likely lose my mother and father being incarcerated, and I don't think I could ever forgive myself if that happened. So, like Joe said, the motivation to stay clean and sober and to make it through and to put up with this facility I'm in is motivating me to move forward and not make any mistakes.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that you're motivated. But, you know, I want to hear more about this facility. These guys that you're in there with, there's 15 guys, and there 4 of y'all don't have those type of charges, but 11 do. You know, I'm sure you've heard, like, hey, that guy right there, like, these guys got to talk. You know what these guys are in there for. Are there some real monsters up in there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're sex offenders. What they actually did, I don't know, because a sex offense crime could be sodomy, it could be, you know, child pornography. I don't know what's involved in that. I don't know what they do, but when they put that title of whatever crime they committed, like grand larceny means that you stole something in a whatever kind of way. When you're charged with a sex offense and they put on there whatever they call it, yeah, it's heinous, it's horrible. Now, let me just say this about that. I had a friend in Indiana that dated a girl. He was 21, she was like 16. She was very mature for age. She looked very mature, and she lied to him and said that she was a certain age, and then they broke up. She got mad. The family found out, and they charged him with some kind of sex crime. Even though he wasn't a sexual predator or a child molester or anything like that, he still had that label as a sex offender because he was, you know, in a relationship with an underage girl. Now that's one thing. That's one situation. But when you have crimes in a sexual nature that involve children, innocent children, negative. I don't agree with that. I don't like it. And me and this other guy that I'm talking about, this roommate I have, we actually looked up some of the guys on a website, which I hope everybody will look me up and see that I'm not. But we looked them up on this state police website, and he was reading off some of the charges, and they did what they did for whatever reason. Some of them are lengthy, some of them are not. but I don't care. I do care, but I don't care. I can't control what other people do. I don't agree with it, and I try to keep that out of my mind. I don't focus on it, and I'm not some investigator that's like, I want to know exactly what happened in this situation. Now, I don't want to say I'm grateful. I love kids, and I wish but I don't have kids. But I'm grateful that I don't, because the world we live in today, Joe, is crazy. It's all kinds of sexual stuff going on. You see it every day on the news. You see all kinds of different stuff with the internet and social media where these people are luring these kids in, and it's terrible. I got to live around these guys, and I do my best not to be judgmental. I be respectful, but I don't get involved in saying, hey man, what did you actually do, or any of that, because I don't really want to hear it, and I really, it's not conducive to my life right now. It's not gonna help me be prosperous and productive in my life. So
I'm going to say what everybody's going to say when they watch this. I would be in there beating the shit out of all of these dudes, which is what anybody from the outside looking in would say. Richard, you're in this situation. You're kind of stuck in this situation. You put yourself in this situation more than you even know. Not just from the mistakes that you made in the past, but also signing up for this particular halfway house without knowing. But you're not the first guy that's done this. There's 3 other guys in there with you that don't have these type of charges. And there's probably been hundreds of guys who have come through in the past, just like you, who don't have these type of charges, who are living in this situation. You mentioned that this was a 6-month program, but it's not a 6-month program for you, is it?
No. I could leave today.
Yeah.
If I had a place to live and the finances to move into an apartment or someplace to go, I could leave today. It's not. I'm not under the stipulations of probation or the registration or any of that kind of stuff. I could leave today, and I'll just say this: I wish I had a van or an SUV or something. I wish I had a place to go other than there, and I'm getting there.
Richard, we got to get you up out of this place. And I hope that, some kind of a way,
Please, I'd love
maybe
it.
this video goes viral, whatever. Some kind of a way, I'd love for you to get from this halfway house to another halfway house. But what if another halfway house was even worse for you? You had mentioned one particular type of a halfway house that you wanted to go to was called Oxford House.
Right.
It's a very popular brand in the halfway house wheelhouse in our state, maybe in the country, I don't know. But, you could have been in a halfway house like that where they're just getting high.
Yeah.
People are doing drugs 100 miles an hour in these halfway houses.
Yes, they are.
So maybe that would have been even more of a negative situation for you than being around a bunch of chomos who, their addiction is something that nobody can even fathom.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just a crazy world, and it's a crazy way that life works out. And it sucks that you're in this situation. But like I was saying, you're not bound by the 6-month mandate that these guys are. No. It's crazy to think that that's all that they have, right? They get out, they got to do this little 6 months. For the first, month you said they can't have a vehicle?
4 months.
No vehicle.
Well, they're not allowed to. They're not allowed to have a vehicle for 4 months. They're not allowed to do, they really can't do anything but go to work and come back for 4 months. That's what the rules say. That's what the rules stipulate.
Can't have a relationship.
They suggest that you don't get in a relationship for a year, and for whatever reason, I don't know. That's just something that they put on them for. Maybe that's part of a stipulation with probation. I don't know. It's just, but there's some stipulations. But as far as like what Joe's talking about, I can leave at any time, and I would love if anybody out there knows of a furnished apartment over a garage or a little efficiency or any place that I could move into closer to my job, which is in Virginia Beach, Indian River, Providence area. I've got a whole apartment full of stuff in a storage from my apartment, everything I need to move in a place. It's just right now transportation has to come first, of course, to and from work, and then paying my bills every week or month.
Yeah,
but yes, I'd love to leave that place.
You know, you can't beat the rent, right? $100 a week is what you're paying.
$100 a week, and they really don't pressure you to pay it. They're very flexible, very good about letting you slide on that. Guys have stayed there for certain periods of time and left and not paid them anything, which, you know, I don't agree with, but it is what it is. But as far as the whole situation is, I have to be grateful. If I'm not grateful in my life today, then I'm going to start being negative, and I'm going to start looking at the things that I don't have, and that will lead me back to selfish, self-centeredness. And the way I've always dealt with that is, well, I hate the way I feel, I hate this position I'm in, I'm going to go get high. And I can't do that. It's not an option anymore. I'm an addict. I have the disease of addiction, and it's being arrested right now. It's not active. So I have to keep it that way, and I need help. I can't do it by myself, but I have to accept my circumstances at this point in time. It's not going to last forever. I have to be patient and let things fall into place, the weather, the job, the vehicle, and then ultimately the day I can pack my stuff up and move out. Maybe I hope the best for those guys. Whatever they do or aspire to do, I hope the best for them. I just pray to God that no little kid has to ever suffer from any of those guys and go through whatever they did. I don't know. It's just, I try not to think about that, and that's where I'm at today.
I hope none of this ends up being a trigger for you, Richard. I wanted to share about this because this is something that nobody hears about. This is the dark side that nobody hears about, and you're living it. Two more things I want to touch on real quick. Probably the worst analogy I could have used right there. Touch on, like most of the people that you live with. Sorry. I ain't shit. All right, look. 6-month program, but you said there's guys who have been in there for 5 years. You know, years. They got nowhere to go. Nobody's going to take those guys. It's a place where you could put these people to pasture at, to a certain degree. You don't have to respond to that, but you had made an interesting point about they go to work and they come right back. You know, there's only a couple of jobs that seem like where these guys are really working at, and it's fast food.
Right.
It seems like fast food seems to be, and we won't put no names on it, but just know wherever most people are eating lunch at, going through that drive-through, it might be a sex offender who's taking your order.
It could be. It could be. And, you know, even just a regular felon like myself, just having regular grand larcenies and petty thefts and forgeries, it's tough for a convicted felon to get a job. And when you do get out of jail, they give you a list of supposedly businesses that will hire convicted felons, but as far as sexual offenses, it's even more limited. You know, you can't work at a lot of different places with those kinds of crimes. So certain businesses do, well, Joe already said it, fast food, they do hire them. And like I said, I can't be judgmental, and I can't say anything against a business that does that. That's their business. But it does make me think more about going out to places and eating. Who's preparing my food, and what kind of other issues they may have in their mind that could affect me. You know what I'm talking about. So I just don't know. It's just a crazy world, crazy situation, and I just put it all in God's hands, and I pray that He will protect me, keep me safe, and give me the right path to follow.
Good for you, Richard, for being in the state of mind that you're in right now.
Doing great, man.
After going through so much that you've gone through in your life. I'm sorry to rip these Band-Aids off the way that we have here today, but I want you to know that we need to do this in an effort to try to get you and your story out there to the masses. Who knows? Maybe something comes of this. God, I would love for this to be a feel-good story. Feel good. Anyways, I'm sorry. I would love for this to be a feel-good story. You deserve that. You know, you're a great guy. You know, I've known you sporadically through multiple different times that you have been free in between jail stints. This is like the third time that we're reconnecting after
Right.
you coming home.
Yes.
And I hope that this is the last time that we have to do
It
this.
is. It's the last time.
You know, I wish you nothing but success, and I want to help you in any way that I can, which obviously isn't much other than allowing you an opportunity to share your story, and maybe it motivates somebody else to get their head out of their ass like you're doing for yourself, and to know, hey, look, it could always be worse. You're living that worst case scenario, sadly, to a certain degree right now. But you know, with as crazy as all of that is, there's only one, well, not really, but the best way that you could go is up from here. And I hope that that's where you're going to go.
That's where I'm going. I'm doing good. I mean, compared to my past releases from incarceration, the main thing is not really everything I have. It's the way I feel, my perspective on life today. I mean, I'm 59 years old. There's not a lot of options for a 59-year-old, and it's getting crunch time for me to live my life and enjoy my life and give back to society in some kind of way, positively, for all the things that I've done that hurt other people. As far as, you know, the theft stuff, it increases the price of products in stores. You know, the criminal justice system, you know, I'm one of the statistics that goes to jail, and the taxpayers have to pay for me to be in there. I hate it, but I want to flip that over onto the good side and use it to, like Joe said, I want to use my past and my story to help people, my experience, my strength, and my hope, to share it with other people so they can say, I don't ever want to end up in a sex offender a facility, so I'm not going to do anything that's going to put me in jail and then, you know, have to maybe wind up in that place, or really any place like that. It's not just that facility, it's any time of you lose stuff, lose your job, lose your possessions, and lose your family and all those types of things. It's so hard. Maybe the first one or two times they're easy to get back, but let me tell you, after over and over and over, it becomes more and more difficult, and it's a serious struggle, and it takes more patience and tolerance and different things to achieve success. You know, when you burn so many bridges, and you don't have a lot of people that reach out and want to help you anymore because they know that you're just going to screw it all up again. And that's been my story in the past, and I can't sit here and tell you it's going to be that different this time. All I can do is live out today and plan for tomorrow and do the best I can tomorrow.
Good for you. Richard, it's good to see you. And I'm going to look forward to continuing this with you and hoping to watch your journey continue in an upward direction.
Okay, it's going to be interesting, and I will be more than happy to give, you know, everyone updates how I'm doing, and I need some encouragement, and any kind of help I can get, it would be greatly appreciated. I don't want to be in this situation I'm in, but it is what it is, and I'm just glad Joe's here to maybe put it out there, what's going on. And I feel really good about getting all this out, because I don't have a lot of an outlet for this stuff. And when I just hold it all in and I'm not able to speak my mind, to be honest, and talk about certain things, I hold it all in, and there again, that's part of my addiction, and it ultimately leads me back to the active part of my addiction. The relapse happens way before you use the first drug again. It happens in the mind, and this helps me clear and cleanse my mind. I hope I haven't offended anybody in any kind of a way. It's not my goal. My goal is to just put my story out there and let it be known what's going on with me, and be able to help myself and maybe somebody else.
Good stuff.
Yes, sir.